Aw, she's over here trying to mimic her. Oh, that's so cute.
Mummy, are you looking for something?
I am.
So, Mother's Day has come and gone, and quite frankly, I'm rather indifferent towards the matter. Not that I grew up without one, just that, well, I never liked her. Sadly, that's just the way it was. But we're not here to talk about that. Well, I could. It'd go a bit more into my backstory. So I'll just give you the cliff notes. Um, Once upon a time, my father and my mother got together. They had me and two other kids. One of them I had thought was missing, and then the other one had been shipped away somewhere. So, I technically grew up as an only child, at least in the eyes of my folks for a while. My dad was the one that raised and taught me. My mother was kind of just there. And then one day, she got him, put him in the dirt. I'll never forget those two little shots. But I got away. And he taught me enough to start scrounging and scavenging and surviving on my own for a while. But like I said, I'm not here to talk about that mother. I'm here to talk about a few different mothers that I've come across in my life, and maybe one that I'm trying to make a mom. But we'll talk about that part later. What happened was, during my more youthful years, so to speak, I think I was around 13 when this happened. I had been wandering around for a few years. I had the option at times to go to orphanages, things like that. But I've saw the conditions of some of those and never really cared for it, so figured I'd just strike out on my own. Anything I could get my hands on to read and learn through, I did because, I didn't want to be stupid growing up. Didn't help. But, after a while, I came across a rabbit. She was in her garden, tending to her veggies and stuff, her flowers, the whole shebang. And while not my proudest moment, I was hungry. So, when she went inside to answer a phone call, I scaled the fence, snuck in, and started helping myself. She even had some apples in her tree. And when I climbed up there to get some, I fell. Again, my climbing it wasn't as good as it was well now. Now I could probably run up a tree and flip into the branches. I can't help it, I'm a bit of a show off. But when she came out, I thought she'd scold me or throw something at me and like just anything really. She didn't even freak out. She just walked up to me and just asked if I was hungry. Now, typically I don't follow strangers at all, but there was something about her. She was, I don't know, I just felt trusting around her. So, going off of what my folks told me to do with grown-ups, I just said, yes ma'am. She brought me inside, cooked a nice meaty stew. It was actually pretty good. Some simple potatoes and a few other things. She didn't really eat meat, so but the broth and stuff she put with it, tasty, delicious. And she asked if I had anywhere to go. I answered the same question, same thing, which was just I don't, but I'll get out of your hair. She wouldn't hear it though, and she let me stay. For a while actually. About I want to say about half a year. Man, and I felt rude not telling her my name, but I just stuck with my first because I wasn't sure if she did know who I was or who I was tied to, if she would have, called the police on me. I was young, though. I didn't realize the idea of, yeah, I wouldn't get charged as an adult for being the child of a known mercenary leader. But I didn't know, so once I told her my name, she told me hers. She was called Vanilla. It's a fitting name for her. Lady was rather sweet after all. But there was one thing I did pick up on. At least at the time, she was pregnant. So, over the time I was there, I figured I'd, you know, keep a hold of I pulled my weight a bit more, helped her with her gardening, helped her move her groceries around, helped her with whatever, everything I could, everything from housework to just running errands for her. She even tried to get me enrolled in a school at one point. But I didn't stay very long. Once I found out she was going to have the kid, I kind of felt bad at the idea of her, you know, feeding another mouth. So I decided to make myself scarce and I left her a note. I felt horrible about it afterwards. I wanted to go back and say thanks, but also that I was sorry. But, I figured she'd make a good mom. And so, once that went, it was a thing of where do I go from there? And as the rest of my life, I just followed wherever the wind took me. And during that time, I actually came across a nice little church. Just while I was hopping off the bus on the train bound for nowhere. And came across a nun. Long story short, I ended up staying a bit longer than I had planned to. I'll tell that story later. But basically, one thing I learned from her was that she was quite, well, not popular in the sense she was a bit of an outcast, but she liked to help people. Orphans, neighborhood kids, so on and so forth. They would come by the church, they would help clean up, and then she would teach them, simple stuff, cooking, little lessons here and there, math, the works. And she was basically just like a mock teacher, which I thought was fascinating. And even though she didn't tend to get along with some of the other ladies there, I guess it was a bit of a jealousy thing. But like I said, at the time, I didn't know any better. I just thought it was weird. I'd say, given her history, she'd make a pretty good mother. And for all I know, maybe she could have been. I don't know how vows work, but I'll have to check in with her again and ask. And then this other example I got isn't exactly not exactly a mother, more like a father who stepped up as a mother, so to speak, or at least not in the same sense, but I'm just choosing to count it because he's actually kind of interesting. There's this guy I know, works in a similar field to me, and he tried to have it all. Nice wife, lovely twins, like beautiful kids and still work a daily 9 to 5. Except his wife was stricken with something. Not entirely sure what, but she wasn't there anymore. So he took time off for a while. He used the money he saved up to buy himself a truck. And he used that truck to make deliveries. And when he wasn't making deliveries, he was home watching his little ones. And obviously, like I said, he just learned. He learned to do the stuff. He learned to do the housework, the cooking, the cleaning. He learned to style their hair, and he even tried to buy them clothes. But again, he didn't have the strongest fashion sense in the world. He used to just try to give them jeans and jackets, and basically just if it's too hot, you take the jacket off. If it's too cold, you put the jacket on, and the jeans so you don't scratch yourself on the grass or get itchy from any particular poison ivies or so on. So like he just kept thinking practical stuff. He had them in boots. So eventually whenever he started trying to get them enrolled in school, he would go to like the workers of the retail workers of the store and thinking like, I'm not very good at this. How do I put them in clothing that they will like? Just tell me what it is and I'll buy it. And, lo and behold, they were happy to make sales that day. And the one thing he wanted the most from his kids, besides obviously them being okay, was them being happy. But he also didn't want them to end up like him because he is a notorious bounty hunter and that in of itself has its own share of dangers. Now, whether or not that works, I don't know. Not quite sure. But, you know, curious all the same. I'll have to ask him about it. Although, yeah, he won't let me anywhere near them. I'm pretty sure if I go anywhere near his daughters, he'll shoot me on sight.